funny. Look. Okay, hello guys. All right, so we're recording. So let me tell you some of the things. It's actually really easy to see. Oh wait, we need to show monitor 2. Here we go. So I'm just going to move this over and show you our Facebook page. Well, there's one. If you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. If you're at peace, you're living in the present.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, I got that.
Okay.
Oh, it just went off. There we go.
Well, let me just tell you some of the things that people are experiencing. First of all, we've got one of our members as you know, has been struggling with a family member, and maybe feeling like that family member is not doing enough, and it causes the person a lot of stress. Another person, I wish they were here to tell you. Most everyone's actually doing quite well. I mean, it's been really, really interesting to see what people are doing. I'm looking at me and JT seem to be the most verbose in our writing. Doggone it! I had a few things. What's that?
What I'm seeing below us is a trade.
Oh,
Forex trade.
really? Let me see if I can zoom in on a specific window. So you see a trade. Let me try this. Does that cover it?
No, I'm still just seeing a trade.
I see a picture of me and you on a video.
And then underneath that, I've got the pips on some Forex chart.
Oh, I see. Well, what I see is just me and you on a video. And that's also all that's being recorded. So anybody watching the recording, all they see is me and you talking. And I can't get my camera where let me move it. Oh. So I'm not looking sideways all the time.
So one
there we go.
that I thought about talking about today was, in the 3 pillars that I think are self-awareness, number 1 is trust, number 2 is gratitude, and the 3rd one is forgiveness. And people have a difficult time because they've been told that forgiveness is one thing when it's really not. Okay? Because what they've been told to do is not something that's actually doable. Because again, function of the brain. So, according to some of the things that I've read, especially it's a kind of a Hebrew kind of thing, is moving through forgiveness is really not about anybody else. So, the first thing that is, like if your bladder is full, it tells you go to the bathroom, correct?
Right.
So, when you have one of these 3 feelings, it tells you that you have to do forgiveness work. So the first one is the big 3 R's. And the big 3 R's are remorse, regret, or resentment. Remorse, regret, or resentment. If you feel one of those 3 feelings, you literally have to sit down and start doing the next 5 steps. So, you also have to remember that forgiveness is not about letting go and letting it be done. Forgiveness is an act of powerlessness, and therefore it's a function of power and helplessness. Forgiveness is a function of helplessness. And I think these next 5 steps are going to show you that forgiveness has absolutely nothing to do with another person. Absolutely nothing. So if I come up to you and, I say, Vance, I'm really sorry that I kicked you in the shins, would you forgive me? Really, what am I doing? As I'm asking you to do all the work and me do nothing. I get to pull myself off.
Right, I want to say I'm sorry and you let me off the hook.
Yeah, let you off the hook. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not what forgiveness is about. And do you remember that this was about, I'm thinking about 7 years ago, there was a one-room schoolhouse, and it was in Pennsylvania, and a shooter went in and slaughtered all these Amish kids.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, within 2 hours, the parents of those slaughtered kids were bringing gifts to the mother of the shooter. And you think, that's craziness. How could they possibly be doing that? Is that denial? What? No. They have a different definition of forgiveness. And this is what it is. It's a 5-step process, and you must do all 5 steps to actually have the experience of forgiveness. And again, forgiveness is a function of power.
Mm-hmm.
So, with those 3 big R's, remorse, resentment, and regret, here's how I remember them. Remorse, O-R, oral. You said something that you really didn't want to say and you can't take it back.
Mm-hmm.
So remorse has to do with something that's oral. Resentment has the word sent in it, which means somebody did something to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Or you think they did.
Regret, you always hear about people later on in life that they regret that they didn't do something. Regret is that your stories of fear stopped you from doing something that may have led to greater happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So regret is your fears stopped you from doing something that would have led to greater happiness. So, the 3 big R's. You get one of those 3 R's, and immediately you have to sit down at the kitchen table, and you're going to go through the next 5 steps.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if your bladder's full, you go to the restroom. So, the first thing, you've heard of the metaphor of a line in the sand. Well, let's expand that metaphor a little bit. There's a line in granite, which you and I know that things that were carved hundreds of thousands of years ago in cliff art are still there, okay? Line in sand, it could be a pretty deep line in sand, or line in water. You must decide where your mind is with that. Now, I'm going to make this brutal. If one of your boys was brutally raped, would it ever be okay with you? Even to your dying day, would it be okay?
No.
No. That's a pretty much line in granite.
Yeah.
You do not spend any time, no intellectualization, no moralization, no valuations, nothing is ever going to make that okay. Ever. So, that's a line in granite. So, a kid does something, your car's wrecked, okay? In 6 months, nobody's hurt.
He actually drew on the paint on the side of the Lexus with a rock.
Okay. Is that a line in, are you going to be thinking about that?
That's sand. That's sand.
Yeah, that's sand. And you walk through the door and I accidentally stepped on your toe, you're not even going to be thinking about it in a couple minutes.
Right.
Line in water.
Right.
So you must first decide how much energy you're going to spend on feeling powerlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Either oral, something was sent to you, or your fear stopped you. Okay, is it in granite, sand, or water? That's the first step. Once you determine that, then you can proceed on to step
And I noticed when you and I were doing this a few months back, I thought something was in granite when it was actually in sand.
Exactly.
Yeah, so when you're in it, it's not always easy to be objective about that part.
Right, and that's why the second part is really important. You must sit down and you must actually objectify the situation. Take a step back and figure out what are all the stories or events that conspired, that came together to create that situation.
Mm-hmm. Now we're also talking about shame. We're also talking about shame, right?
Exactly.
This is how to overcome shame as well.
Right. Shame can be an absolute component of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you look at something that happened to you when 10 years old, okay, and you're, 40 now, okay, did you have the tools and skills necessary for dealing with that situation? Probably not. So
Right.
can you let it go? Can you just say, I just didn't have the skills? Okay.
Maybe
So-
not.
So the second part is actually sitting down and objectively looking at all the different parts that contributed and conspired to create that situation, all the ingredients. So that's important. The third part is we have to bring the body into this. And that's where you have to literally sit down and ask yourself, where do you physically experience all those feelings in your body and where? And that's where we bring in the other thing that we talked about how do you sit with an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Close your eyes, and with your five senses, absolutely describe in as best detail as you can where you are experiencing that feeling. How big is it? What's the texture of it? What's the weight of it? What's the color of it? What's the temperature of it? What's the smell of it? What's the taste of it? If it was trying to say something, or if it was making a sound, if there was any kind of vibration, what was that?
And that was in meeting number 2. Okay, just for those of you watching, for the people watching, that's in meeting number 2. That was our last one.
Okay, so that is the somatic part of bringing it all together, mind and body. So you must experience in your body where you experience powerlessness, and that can be shame, it can be guilt, it can be anything that you put in there for your experience.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth part, okay, since you've taken it apart, you can be objective, and since you've experienced the physicalness of this, what skills, tools, or insights did you learn from that experience?
Mm-hmm.
What skills, tools, or insights did you learn from that experience? So that when you start to see them start to add up again, you can either step back, you can take an ingredient out of the mix so that you don't get the exact same experience again. People find this one in their relationships. Why do I keep attracting the same type of person? Well, because you got the same kind of thinking. You need to take them apart and find out what skills, tools, or insights did I get from that. Now, by doing that, you have taken back your power.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at 10 you didn't have those skills, tools, or insights. But now at 40, you've taken it apart, you've objectified it, you've gone into your body, and you've learned. You have learned. So that when you start to see them happening again, you can go, whoa, we're not going there again.
Mm-hmm.
That is taking your power back. You have learned something from it, which leads us to number 5. Teach it to somebody. The best way to learn something is to teach it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So your children, teach them if they see these things adding up. When you're having coffee with a friend, tell them about your experience and what you learned from it. Inspire those around you by telling them your experience. We learn best by teaching.
Mm-hmm.
That is the power of forgiveness. So do you see, if I ask you, oh, Vance, excuse me, but I'm really sorry about that. Will you please forgive me? Where am I putting all the onus at? You. I'm asking you to do all the work. And I'm just letting myself off the hook.
Yeah, and I don't feel like doing it either. What you did to me last week, John, I'm never forgetting that. That's in granite.
Powerlessness is also a function of trust.
Yeah.
And what are one of the pillars of, self-awareness? Trust.
Yeah, can I jump in there for just a second, John? Because what I was going to say is this exercise that John's giving us right now, I actually did it. In a similar way that you guys write to me each day, I would write to John probably a lot more than what you guys write. You probably spend a few hours some days catching up on my stuff. But I would go out and experience a certain event socially every other week or every week, whenever I went out. And I would tell John what happened. Some of it was funny, some of it was not so funny. And he would write me back, it sounds like shame. And I'd be like, I don't feel shame. I know what shame feels like. So again, it's like many things I didn't understand at first. But anyway, so a week or two would go by, and I'd go out and do this again. And I'd tell him what happened. Oh, this happened, and this was really dumb, and this happened. And he'd write back, sounds a lot like shame. I'd be like, what? Come on, man. Help me out here. So anyway, about the third time, I'm like one of those three strikes kind of guys. I tell him what's going on again. He goes, really? It sounds like shame. I'm like, all right, then tell me what to do. And he just told me, and he told me what he just told you guys. And so I said, fine, I'll do it. Everything else he said worked. Why not? No harm, no foul. And so I did it. It took me about 3 hours, just to give you guys an idea of how long it took me to do that. It took me about 3 hours on real early on a Sunday morning. And I'll say after I did it, I felt a little better, but nothing major. But what was really fascinating is the next time that I got into that social situation again, and I didn't even notice it, none of it happened again. It took me actually 2 or 3 weeks of going to my social event to actually look back and recognize that all the stuff that was happening just was not happening anymore. It was just gone. So one of the great insights that came out of that experience is when you eliminate shame, it eliminates all the drama that shame creates. And then there was a lot of other stuff. Like, for example, he mentioned trust. As a result of that exercise, I developed a lot more trust for myself, because what I was doing in those social situations is I was saying, Vance, be careful. There's something about you that's broke. We need to watch ourselves really carefully so we don't do something stupid, because you're broke. There's something really wrong with you. Now, you're not thinking there's something wrong with you, but you're acting as if something's wrong with you. And when you go through that exercise and you learn from the experience, a part of you goes, you know what? We got this. It just, and you trust yourself, because you don't think of yourself as being broken.
Mm-hmm. You know, you brought up something, Vance, that I think that we need to talk about. I don't think we've talked about it before. I mean, you and I have, but I don't think in a general sense we have.
Oh, okay.
You know how when you're driving a car, okay, and you're going to change lanes over into the right-hand lane, okay, you always, even though you have a mirror right there, one of the safety aspects about changing lanes is to actually look over at it. Okay?
Let's see.
Because people could have blind spots.
Right.
Blind.
Oh, yeah, the blind spots.
We have emotional blind spots also. And a lot of them are around shame. So, and that's the idea that I'm broken, defective, something's wrong with me. Now, let's look at what an emotional blind spot is and how you know when you're in it. Okay? So the first thing is, we have these emotional blind spots where we feel powerful. We have done something so repeatedly over time that it has become normalized for us. Now, most of that stuff came from when we were very, very young, when your brain is literally developing its habits. So probably before the age of 8, 9. That's when 85%, remember, your brain cells, your neural tracts are put down. So, in your family, depending on if you were the helper, the peacekeeper, the bad boy, the bad girl, the trophy winner, whatever your job was in that family, that your primate little brain decided that was your niche so that they wouldn't throw you out into the jungle and you'd die. You developed that, and that's where your coping skills came from. So, what happens is those that become so normalized, you don't know when you're stepping into them. But here's how you know. It feels good. It actually feels good. You get to use some of your coping skills that you learned very early on and normalized to happen in that next situation. So, when people say, why do I keep attracting the same kind of relationships? Because you keep attracting the same kind of people with the problems. Because you have coping skills for those problems.
And that feels good.
So, how you need to know when you've stepped into an emotional blind spot is it feels good. So you've got to practice mindfulness about, wow, this is just feeling too good to be true. Well, it probably is.
All right.
And you probably slipped right into a minefield of everything that you know.
I remember you talking a lot about emotional blind spots, and I remember going, oh, there's one, and then forgetting about it. And no, I mean, I remember, I don't remember it, but I remember myself seeing it, and then it was gone. And then I'm like, okay, explain that again. And I still couldn't tell you what an emotional blind spot is.
Well, again, it's the things that we have consistently done over and over and over and normalized it. And then you don't have to put any energy into doing it. It's like tying your shoes.
It's okay. So it's really almost like rapprochement, where we start using the same old pattern we've always used, and I can see some of those patterns that really feel good that I do, because I will target them when I'm seeking diversion. I'll go to those things that make me feel good and are very familiar. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Right. It's you know when you're in rapprochement because it's the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, but you're going for all of the coping skills that you know that you can defend. And it feels good. They may not be good for you, but mac and cheese is really not all that great for you, but it's my comfort food.
Can I jump in for a minute there? I wanted to share. When I was on the cleanse for 13 days. I want to share a couple things about that. It's like a box of chocolates in that you never know exactly what you're going to get. But for me, the cleanse this time, the first thing that I noticed is I hardly ever get hungry. But I noticed this particular time around, I noticed that food was a great comfort to me. Like, oh man, if I could just have a few potato chips, I would feel so much better about myself. It wasn't about the eating at all. I think the way I view food has changed since I've been doing this work. And so then basically for the next 4 or 5 days, everything was about comfort. Oh, geez. Man, I really would like to hang out with that person for a little while. It made me feel better. I mean, literally everything I wanted literally was about comfort. And I even conceded to myself on a couple of little things because I felt sorry for myself. Okay, well, just have a little of this, And but it really was a profound experience for me. But the other thing I wanted to share from this particular experience was when you're like you could pick any day. It could be day 3. It could be day 5. For me, I'm thinking day 6, day 7, day 8, day 9, day 10, day 11. Millie would talk to me once in a while about food, and I said, don't think about food. But what she was really talking about was, this, by the way, this is the first one she's done for 10 days. So what she was really talking about was, hey, let's talk about the future. She wasn't talking about food. She was talking about the future. I'm like, no, let's not talk about the future. let's stay here. Because if we talk about the future, we're going to picture that future, and then it's just going to start messing with us psychologically. But most importantly, what I wanted to communicate is I knew I couldn't eat. I've done this I don't know how many times. I mean, cleanses 50 or 60 times. The master cleanse maybe 5. I've done this. I know not to think about food. But that's the same thing that we're doing, working on being present. I knew not to think about the food, but in my everyday life, I don't yet know not to think about the future. And that's really what came through from that experience, is when you're doing the cleanse, you do not think about the future. And it's an amazing thing because you get so much free time. The future absolutely consumes all of our time. What I'm going to eat, who I'm going to hang out with. And then all the planning to get ready for it, to take the shower, to get the clothes on, to do all of this stuff. I mean, the future consumes, I'll bet, half our time. But when you're on a cleanse, you can't think about the future. All you can think about is what's right in front of you, that step right in front of you. And so I got familiar with this feeling of this mindset that I had, and I thought, I like to keep this around. I like this. I get a lot done. And so anyway, I just wanted to compare just that thing that we do to ourselves, thinking about food we're going to eat at the end of the cleanse and how that makes us feel, to just our normal everyday things. Oh, what am I going to do on Friday this week, or worried about something that might happen that's in the future, whatever it might be. But to me now it's all the same thing.
Well, and the Buddha said this in one of his sutras, lessons, that, the past is dead and the future is yet unborn.
Mm-hmm.
You only have right now. And that's all you have. Your ego, your monkey brain, your weasel, whatever you want to call that thing up here, okay, it's always trying to keep you off balance. It's constantly the joker, the devil, whatever you want to call it, good wolf, bad wolf. It's always trying to keep you off balance because it keeps it at center play. Always. And it will until the day you die. You take your last breath and it'll go, oops. That's about it.
See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it is about the practices, though, and that's what we have to keep working on. And I think that's where people can, move in and really be part of a community that helps them with those practices, so that when they step off and they haven't been doing these things for a while, it's a reminder, it's an inspiration to, get back on the horse, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Or to just say, hey, you know what you're experiencing is normal. That's what happened to me my first week. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, other guys, yeah, me too. That happened to me. Yeah, I think not everybody has been exposed to authentic people. I've been dealing with it on Facebook. People have gotten real comfortable being real. But some people are new to that, and it is nice to see people, be totally authentic. Say, hey, I screwed up, man. Didn't show up. Or I was on a trading call the other morning. I had this brilliant thought, and then poof, it was gone. I said, sorry, guys, it's gone. I mean, that's real.
And again, moving it back to, forgiveness.
Right.
That, if you put forgiveness as the headline, okay, underneath of it is all the different things, like power, like trust, like shame, okay? And again, remember, shame is that idea that you're broken. What if you just simply replace that story with, I just didn't know? And again, forgiveness is about, rebuilding trust between two people. So if I go up to you, Vance, and I say, please forgive me for kicking you in the shins, and then you go, okay, and then I kick you in the shins again. And I go, Vance, I'm really sorry that I kicked you in the shins. Okay?
That's funny, man.
Oh, okay.
Millie could tell you a guy did this.
Again, a third time. You think you're going to take me seriously? No. But if I come up to you and go, hey, Vance, I felt really bad about kicking you in the shins 3 times and saying I'm sorry, and I felt awful. So I actually went to the doctor, and I realized I had some tests done, and I've got this kind of Tourette's thing. And what happens is I get really close to somebody, and for some reason my brain just goes, kick him. Okay?
Right.
So next time I start getting really close to you, you might want to back up a little bit. Have I demonstrated to you that it so concerned me that I've done the work to figure out why that was going on?
Yeah.
Can you start to rebuild trust with me now?
I'm going to wear a cup, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because you might miss the shin.
But it's about building trust. If a person comes up to you and wants forgiveness, quote unquote, look to see if they've taken the responsibility.
Yeah, by doing something. By doing something.
By doing something, that starts to build trust. And that's because, remember, forgiveness is about rebuilding trust and giving the power back.
Right, and also that we judge ourselves the same way we judge other people. I found it in that. Oh, my monitors just went blank. Hang on. What I found out from that experience is that when I did it, I said I trusted myself more, but I think it's because I mean the way I picture it, my brain, which is alarmed by what I might do, which by the way. We have it totally backwards. We think, I don't trust my body. When what's really happening is our body does not trust us. But we imagine we can't trust that body. That body's going to want to go out and party, and it's going to say the wrong thing. No, dude, that's us. We're trying to get our body to trust us. It's just the reverse. Yeah, so when you do the work, even if you're doing it for someone else, what really happens is you end up trusting yourself more, and they can see that because you have more confidence. You say no, they look in your eyes and say, "Hey, listen, I learned something from this."
Right. And that's a really good point about bringing it back into wholeness with body and mind together. Okay, but training the brain. Okay. There's a world famous gentleman. His name is Peter Levine. Okay. And he works a lot with veterans, soldiers, coming back from war zones. He does a lot of work. And his work is groundbreaking because the soldiers have been trained to be up here, okay, and not down here, completely dysregulate from their body.
Right.
And what he found in his work, and it's simply miraculous work, is by bringing the consciousness back down to your body and listening to your body before you engage your brain, that it actually starts relieving the symptoms and literally curing post-traumatic stress from these war zones. And it's a miraculous thing, but this is nothing new.
Right. No, I experienced that with this work myself. I was actually having some kind of post-traumatic stress situation going on, and by focusing and becoming conscious of what I was experiencing, it actually alleviated those symptoms.
Exactly. Now, this is fascinating work because you've got to remember we're primates. We're really only 3 chromosomes off from a chimpanzee. Okay? So, when they've gone back and they've looked at traditional cultures, and we've all seen this and didn't put the 2 and 2 together. Okay? So I'm going to point this out. National Geographic. Let's do the Dogs of Africa, special. Okay?
Right.
So it shows all the dogs in the pack, and they're going to go on a hunt. What do they do before they go on a hunt? They get themselves all riled up, okay, and then they, boom, all one consciousness, go out, get water buffalo, okay? And then they all, they eat the water buffalo, okay? Then they always have this little section right after they've eaten the water buffalo, okay, where the dogs go off independently and they show what they do. And what those dogs do, and you've probably, if you have a dog, you've seen this, when a dog gets their central nervous system too high, the dog will literally shake it off. Like this, okay? Literally resetting the central nervous system so they can go back into the pack. Okay? So they can go back into the pack.
Right.
Before the genocide of the American Native Indians, okay, they had this exact same thing, but it scared the newcomers. So before, let's say the Shawnee would go out and attack, or some other tribe because they were encroaching upon their hunting grounds, or they needed to go on a buffalo hunt or something, what would the tribe do? What would the tribe do the night before?
Dance around the fire?
Exactly. Well, what kind of a dance would they do? It would be a high beat drum, getting the brain into a beta wave, okay? And they would be going, they'd be yelling, and they would be doing all that kind of stuff to get everybody up, just like that pack of dogs. So the next morning, their central nervous system was up, focused, ready to go, boom, go get buffalo, okay? After the buffalo, how did they bring themselves back into being the tribe? what did they always do that evening?
Food coma and marijuana.
They would do what they would call the ghost dance.
Ah,
Okay? And it was a very melodic dancing around the same fire camp that they did before, where they would bring their nervous system back down again to get the cortisol out of their system. Whoops, I lost you here. Get their cortisol back down out of their system. We, as a general culture, have stepped away from that. So, that's why people always feel good after they go to the gym. They always feel good after they go dancing. They always, because they're bringing down their central nervous system to get it to come back into where they can group together. Now, in relationships, a lot of times this is facilitated by, quote, make-up sex. And it's usually pretty hot and airy, and, it really does the trick, because you're coming back into alignment or atonement, at-one-ment. So there's the thing that we're talking about also. When something has been done to you, like, resentment, then what's happened is your central nervous system has gone up, and we need to bring it back down. And that's where this somatic work comes in, mind and body together. And you've got to bring the body into this, not just the head. So that's why in the 5 steps, you've literally got to move into your body.
you mentioned.
And that's what Peter Levine talks about with these guys that have experienced trauma. By him moving them through into the experience of their body as they're thinking about both what's going on with that experience that they keep reliving in their head, their body moves it through.
Mm-hmm.
That's what forgiveness is all about also.
You made me
Moving
think.
it
You made me think about something. I think it was where you were talking about the Indians getting all the Native Americans. Hey, I'm part Indian, so I can say what I want. You talk about them getting all jacked up and then, needing to come back down from that. And it's funny. There are certain things that one of the things you said is when you have the right coping devices for the right situation, you'll be pretty happy. And I had a pretty relaxing evening. Had a hugely demanding week, but pretty relaxing evening. It's the kind of thing I do to relax. And I actually woke up pretty peaceful. And I started to do my 3 pages. It was Batman. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? See, I thought I was all calm, but I wasn't. I mean, it was literally going 100 miles an hour. It never turned off. And so I thought, this is a really bad time to go take a hot bath when I'm just starting my day. But I went and did it. I just thought, you know what? I'm going to listen to my body, and I'm just going to go do it. And I did. And I think it made a huge difference in my day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When they've done studies for people that go to spas, okay, or even like I was telling you about Brighton Bush up on Mount Hood in Oregon. They have done studies where they've looked at people's cortisol levels. Your cortisol levels can still be rather high, and at the same time, you could feel, quote, kind of peaceful because you're used to it.
Right.
But when they tested people after like 3 days at a spa, hot springs, their cortisol levels were almost non-existent. Just from the heat and, bringing down, slowly getting the cortisol out of your system.
Well, I was watching.
I think that goes along with.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that's why, you've really got to be contacting that mindfulness, and really seeing what you are experiencing in your body. You've got to go to the body.
Well, I think your body tells you what you need to do, too. I mean, the longer I've done this, it's like my body says, okay, it's like the story. I was watching a biography on a rock star, and they were talking about how they'd be on stage and, there'd be 30,000 people, and they're just they're feeling incredibly alive, and then afterwards they would take drugs and drink alcohol and just try to bring that down. And one of the guys goes, yeah, and I figured out 10 years later all I needed was a hot bath, and that worked just fine. I'm like, ooh, I'm listening to that. So that's it's a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a friend that he's in the culinary industry. And, they're just on the go, 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 go. How many people are actually in the restaurant and how many covers you got, how
Right.
dishes they put out. And then all of a sudden it's over because the place closes,
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do with that energy? It's kind of like, when you were in school and you had all these projects due and all these, papers due and, testings and all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, the 15th of June comes and they're all done, everything's turned in, and you're up here. What do you do to get it down here? And it takes, it's like going on vacation. For me, it takes like 2 or 3 days to get me to like come back down, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. No,
How do
exactly.
you do it faster?
Well, how did we learn to do it? We learned to drink. Some healthier people learn to exercise. Go work out, go climb a mountain, whatever. I got one of my friends, every time he gets stressed out, he goes up a hill. It works for him. But yeah, the question is, what should we do?
Well, I think you have to do a mind-body, cleanse, basically. Number one, you've got to address the body and get the chemical out of your body, get the cortisol out of your body. And that's usually through a walk, some kind of physical exercise. The best, is when you think about your day as you're exercising, because it actually processes the neurons through. And once a neuron has fired off and you've let go, it's done.
Right. That makes
It's really
sense.
done.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really. Yeah, I have a friend who, what he does, he's a very, very busy guy. And we never talked about it in this context, but at the end of each day, he goes for a walk. I mean, they have an incredibly pressured day. But at the end of the day, they always go for about a 5-mile walk and talk about their day. And they're always peaceful and happy. So there's an idea.
You let it go.
Yeah.
And that's, when we look at the Native Americans, and they're doing the war dances to get ready, it brings it up. Then they're focused, you go, but then you got to bring it down. And that's what they usually did with the ghost dance. It was that would bring them, put basically a theta wave back into their brain because of the constant drumming and the slow walking and going around the fire, all night long. It's to bring everything back down again. I have another friend that what he does is, his wife and his kids know that when Daddy comes home, because it's a very high-stress job he has, he goes directly into his bedroom, closes the door. He's in there for anywhere from a half an hour to an hour, and everybody knows, leave Daddy alone, okay? What Daddy's doing in there is he's meditating. So he's bringing it down, but then when he comes out there, he's absolutely present with them the rest of the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely present. How many times, in our families are we not present because we haven't done what we needed to do? Turn my phone off here. Turn off. There we go. So that's, it's about starting to create that wholeness in life. That wholeness, A lot of times when I leave work, I'll walk home because it's the hills that I hit coming from downtown Seattle up to First Hill. They are some of the most rugged in the city, And I get to the top of that hill, and even though it's just one step in front of the next, and I'm sweating, I get home, my shirt's all wet, and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I'm totally present when I get home. Mind, body.
Yeah, some good tips there.
Yeah.
So I John, I think it's a good meeting for today.
Okay.
I think we're good. Really great session, and you know what? We've got like 15 active people. I'm not sure why they're right here. I noticed Sarah sent me a note. Geez, I thought it was 6 o'clock my time. Sorry, Sarah. I know you don't talk like that. I don't know why I said it that way. But anyway, we'll try to. I don't know. I don't know if people are just busy on Sundays or what, but I'll process this recording and get it up for them, and they can take a look at it.
Sounds good.
All right, John.
Okay.
Thank you very much, buddy.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Good luck, everybody.